Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, April 19th, 2026, coming at you live from the Great Florida Media in Rockville Center. Got a stupendous show coming up for you tonight. Hockey Hall of Famer Lou Lamoriello will be joining us. Cannot wait to talk to him. My name is Sean Cuthbert. With me, as always, is Mr. Arthur Staple. Arthur, how do you do?
I'm doing fine. I drove by UBS today on my way here, and it just stings a little bit. They really shouldn't be here doing this and wrapping up the season. That's how I feel.
Well, that comes next week, Arthur. We're going to stretch out this long, painful process another week. But yeah, I hear you. You know, it was even worse being in the building for the last couple of games. You know, to actually witness the death firsthand. It was tough, but we're going to power through this.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so big show coming up for you. Thank you for tuning in. I want to thank our wonderful sponsor, Razor Kniff and Lawnstein, attorneys at law ready to fight for you. Check them out at razorandkniff.com and RAISERANDKENNIFF.com for a free consultation. And if you were hanging out with us live and you want to get your question in during the chat, during Questions Brewing, type in Questions Brewing, followed by your question, and we will get to it later on in the show. So, Arthur, let's recap some misery before a little more fun later on. But there were 2 games played since our last episode, so we might as well just blaze through them real quick. Let's start with Sunday the 12th versus Montreal, 4-1 loss. And the Islanders season officially came to a close as far as making the playoffs within 55 seconds late in the second period. 3 straight goals. You and I were texting about this as it was happening. And after the third one went in, I was howling laughing in the stands. In my seat, I was just laughing my ass off because the comedy.
I love that.
Well, I don't know. Everybody was probably too busy booing. But it was just the comedy of it, right? And you know, they really didn't have anything to show for it. And look, we knew by that point that, you know, chances were slim to begin with. But at the same time, you still have a mathematical chance. Show us something. You're in your building. And, you know, they hang tight with them there for a little bit. Again, you get to the end of the second period, and the wheels just completely fall off, and they have barely anything to show for it. After that, Zizekas gets a tip-in goal off of a Mayfield shot in the third period. That's essentially meaningless. And to add to the hilarity, 15 seconds left, and Montreal puts another one in to make it 4-1, and that officially ends the season mathematically for the Islanders.
Yeah, you know, it was a very similar feeling to the Ottawa game the day before and some of the other ones that we've seen over the last few weeks of this season. A team that was struggling to score goals, that was maybe defending a little bit better, but also playing in Montreal that didn't have a ton to play for. I think they were still had a chance to win the division with that game, but obviously they had clinched the top 3 spot in the Atlantic. You know you're going to take your foot off the gas. So to come away from that first 35-minute stretch, nothing, and with not a lot of chances to show for it either. Right. You just saw a team that was really tight, and the tightness goes away when you score a few goals, like we saw against Florida a few weeks ago when they were still in the thick of it, when they had that 5-goal second period, and you say, okay, the dam burst, but that's a positive. Sometimes you see it in the dam burst and it's a negative, and that was the way it went, where Montreal, bunch of skilled young guys, you know, a team I think we talked about the day of that game, that's a team you want to emulate if you're a team like the Islanders looking to turn things around, make some changes. It's taken a while for Montreal, but you really like what they do, and I like a lot of their young guys and the way that they play. And just the Islanders look, you know, they just look defeated, honestly. And the fact that you knew that it was, even if they'd won that game, it was going to be a long shot to be able to get in because of what Philly was doing and what Ottawa was doing. But still, you want to see them finish strong, and it really didn't happen that way that day.
It didn't. But Suzuki got his 100th point for Montreal. So
he did.
That's
good
something
for him. Yeah, good for him. And if you're, you know, if you're, dare I say this, a Noah Dobson fan, I know he wasn't playing in that game and he's out for the beginning part of their playoff series, which started tonight. But, you know, Jake's going to tell us about the former Islanders that we can root for in the playoffs.
Yes, he is.
He is one of them.
He's working on it right now.
Feel about him. So he was here for a long time. But yeah, It's an exciting young team, and the Islanders could stand to get a little bit. We had some of that excitement with Matthew Schaefer, some of it with Cal Ritchie, but we could use a lot more of that youthful energy.
Absolutely. So moving on to the bitter end, known as Game 82 versus the Carolina Hurricanes. This is a 2-1 loss. The Canes are resting plenty of guys because they don't have anything to play for, but yet they still came out and got the win. How about that? But of interest for the Islanders, a reason to watch.
Sure.
Eklund and Foodie get call-ups, right? So they're in the mix. Sorokin finally gets a rest because it doesn't mean anything anymore. Riddick gets the start. And, you like what you see out of Eklund. He gets 15 and a half minutes of ice time. He gets in his first assist on Horvat's 300th
really
goal.
Nice play.
Yes, very nice pass across. And, so that's a positive, and maybe his development is a little further along than maybe we thought. You and I both agreed he wasn't going to see a game before the season's over.
They were still eligible to make the playoffs
That's
when
true.
we said that, so in fairness to us.
in fairness, but it was nice to see him come up, and I thought, you could tell right away the size was lacking, but I thought he played well.
Yeah, and I think he's, he didn't go from being a big guy in the Swedish league either.
Right.
He is a smaller kid. He's only 19, so there's definitely room to pack on some pounds and some muscle. And I think you see a team like Carolina. I understand it built different, but you see a guy like Logan Stankoven. You see Jackson Blake, our old pal Jason Blake's son.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't big guys either, and they play big parts in that Carolina team. So there is a path to play. And I think we talked about these Montreal players. Cole Caulfield. He's a little guy, 51 goals this year. Lane Hudson is a little guy on the back end. So I think if you're skilled enough, you can find a way to succeed. And I think Victor Eklund, the way that he's played in Bridgeport, I'm excited to see him in the playoffs starting next week. I think the confidence is there, and I think with a coach like Peter DeBoer, with a whole summer to sort of game plan and figure out whether it's through development camp or through training camp, give this kid some rope, see what he can do. Let him make some mistakes. Let him figure it out. Let him see how he has to use his body and protect himself at the NHL level. And there's going to be some hiccups. He's going to get thrown around a little bit, but I'm excited to see him. And, I think when Matthew Darsh is kind of game planning this roster, whatever changes he wants to make, I would have Victor Eklund right there and, give him the opportunity. You don't keep a roster spot open for him, but you keep maybe thinking like, okay, we have somebody in there, but we could take this person out if Victor Eklund succeeds in training camp.
I'm with you there, absolutely. So let's pivot now. Let's look at these DeBoer 4 that we had at the end of the season here. Now clearly we're not really putting any weight on his shoulders with how these games went. We could at least give the guy a summer in a training camp to see how things go, right? But let's just look at some numbers here. 7 goals in the 4 games, 5 of which came in that game against Toronto. So goals were difficult to come by in these final 4 games. Let's see, 2 in the last 3, 12 goals against over the course of those 4 games. But listen, again, preliminary, obviously hasn't had time to really put his stamp on this team yet. But is there anything that you saw out of these 4 games that made you say, okay, that's different, okay, that looks improved, or anything?
To be honest, not really. I thought they defended. Fair. I thought they defended pretty well, but we talk about in the data era, we talk about score effects and situations where you see a team that's down a goal or 2 that opens it up and starts to play a little bit harder. I feel like there's score effects. They're like season effects. Like Ottawa is at a very different point in their season than they were a couple of months ago when we played them a couple of times, or played them the first time. Montreal, like we said, Carolina, different lineups, already clinched playoff spots. You're not seeing teams playing at their peak. I don't think, and even with that, we saw them lose both of those games in regulation.
Right.
So I feel like for the Islanders, it was really more of like, it's almost like preseason games if you're Peter DeBoer and he's assessing it. You're seeing guys. It's a set lineup. You're not changing your lineup like you would when you have 40 or 50 guys playing preseason games, but you're evaluating. That's the most important thing to do. And I understand if they beat Toronto, if they'd beaten Ottawa, we could be sitting here right now talking about playoffs. That would have been a bonus. But I said it. Yeah. When they made the move last week, I'll say it again. This was not a move to save this season. This was a move to put them ahead of the game in future seasons with the best available coach. So I think he was evaluating everything. He was evaluating what the assistants do on the bench, the guys that he was unfamiliar with. He's evaluating how they play. I think you heard him say it. There were a couple things he liked, but he was pretty honest afterwards. So we have a lot of work to do, and I think that was maybe the thing that we learned the most, that this guy's not going to sugarcoat it. And,
yes, that's encouraging.
I think when you have his resume, you are the one that everybody's going to listen to, and I feel like he was very quiet behind the bench. I think in those 4 games,
yes.
I think he was just doing a lot of observing
yes.
of his own team rather than kind of game planning, which is, I'm sure he was doing plenty of that too. So I'm curious to see what sort of input he has with, exit meetings that they had earlier this week, what his meetings are going to be like with Matthew Darche, what sort of input he's going to have on the shape of this roster to come. And I feel like, if you're a fringe player, let's say on this team, you might be kicking yourself for how you played in these 4 games, because you needed to show a little bit more to this guy. So I wonder how much of an effect it'll have, or if he's going to take the season as a whole and consult with the people who have been here a long time. But yeah, I think the overall takeaway is we all knew there was a lot of work to be done, and clearly Peter DeBoer knows it now too.
So let's look at the team. Let's look at the players on this roster. Plenty of veterans. We've noted that.
Sure.
But was it surprising to you how they let this season slip away with such a whimper? I mean, you just would have thought you would have seen more fight out of this team, right? And these games that they ultimately lost here towards the end at least would have had a little more, fight to them, energy to them, even just a chance at winning. And it just seemed like they weren't even in these games.
Yeah, I think the fact that Sorokin ran out of gas, in a big way in that kind of pivotal week, the week before with the Pittsburgh game and the game in Carolina. I think we've learned this lesson a lot. We learned it the year that Lane Lambert was fired. They did get in the playoffs because that collapse happened in the middle of the season. They were able to had some time to turn it around. But we've seen these stretches where Sorokin has had to play 10, 11, 12 games in a row, and it just takes a toll on him. And I think this year, for sure, because he saw so much rubber, he saw so many high-danger situations, I think maybe first or second in the league in terms of high-danger chances against. It just he was the guy that was really making it happen. And the fact that he collapsed, I think, probably brought down everybody's confidence level quite a bit, that he wasn't able to save them in these last pivotal 3 weeks. So I'm not totally surprised.
Okay.
But I feel like, taken as a whole, these last 5 seasons now, and like I said, we'll talk about it more next week, but I think, the overall effect is we need a better team. We need a better overall team. And so I'm not losing faith in these guys. They've accomplished a lot, but it's been a while since they accomplished anything really great. So I'm not totally surprised at the collapse. I feel like they need to change some of the underlying numbers. They need to change some of the personnel, the ways that they play. And I feel like, this to me, and I said it before, it's a really pivotal offseason for this group.
Oh yeah.
I think they need some fundamental changes to really turn this thing around.
I agree with you. And Arthur, we will get to your anthem later because we have to break for the great Lou Lamoriello. We're going to take that break. When we come back, it's time to go on the line with Lou Lamoriello.
When in need of representation, it's not always easy to know where to turn. But whether you've been accused of a crime or need to go to court, Razor, Kniff & Lonstein, attorneys at law, have you covered with over 100 years of combined experience. With offices in Manhattan, Mineola, and Suffolk, Razor, Kniff & Lonstein is an award-winning law firm specializing in criminal defense with additional expertise in business debt settlement, trust and estates, personal injury, and more. At Razor, Kniff & Lonstein, you'll have direct access to your attorney 24/7. Because more attentive service translates to better outcomes. You deserve legal representatives with national recognition and a strong track record of delivering results. And Razor, Kniff & Lonstein are ready to fight for you. Call 212-LAW-1500 or go to razorandkniff.com to schedule a free, no-risk consultation today. That's RAISERANDKENNIFF.com. Razor, Kniff & Lonstein. We win cases because we make your problems our problems. Attention all artists, storytellers, and creators of all kinds. It's time to make your content stand out above the rest. And Floored Media is the place to make your visions become a reality. Maybe you want to elevate your podcast and add some video, or turn that novel you wrote into an audiobook. Or Or maybe you just need the right space to produce your daily vlog. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, Floored Media has the professional facilities, exceptional staff, and intimate atmosphere to breathe life into your creative passions at every step of the process.
Hope you enjoyed the ads. Now let's get back to Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, folks. Let's get back to Hockey Night in New York. It is time for On the Line, presented by Razor, Kniff, and Launstein. And joining us on the line right now is three-time Stanley Cup champion and Hockey Hall of Famer, Mr. Lou Lamoriello. Lou, thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you, Sean? And how are you, Arthur?
Doing great.
We're doing great, Lou. We're excited to have you here.
Yes, appreciate your time. So, Lou, just to get started, how much of this season did you get to watch, just being away from the day-to-day, and what's that been like for you this year?
Well, I think being away from every day in the game, I've watched more hockey than I've ever watched. I really enjoyed watching all different teams more, and also really appreciating several of these young players are in the league, a couple of generational players and some other really going to be superstars. Even watching a couple of them tonight, the game's on right now in Montreal. So it's been enjoyable. And I can go to bed at night, get a good night's sleep, not worry about who's starting in the game and the goal next night. So a lot of good things.
Lou, 7 years as the Islander general manager, you've embraced this area, this fan base, this organization. What did you learn and what did you like the most about being with this Islanders team?
Well, first of all, I think, and I know they've got great ownership. It's where you start. And the fans are just exceptional. I mean, I had the experience of the fans, when I was in New Jersey, as far as just their passion and how committed they are and how much they want to win, which is great. And the other thing, the area is something that really was very impressive. Really surprised me because the only time I came to the island was to the Marriott Hotel, walked across the parking lot to the Coliseum and got on a bus and went back home after the game. But to see the area, I can't say enough about it.
And Lou, you had a lot of unique challenges during your tenure with the Islanders. You had the summer managing the John Tavares situation, obviously changing the culture of the team. You had a global pandemic. You operate out of multiple buildings, 3, and you had the cap freezes going on. What would you consider your most challenging experience through that tenure with the Islanders?
I don't really look at anything as the most challenging. Every day there's something new. They overlap. What you do is you take the hand that you're dealt with and you make the most of it and surround yourself with the best possible people you can, to try and, get to the ultimate, and that's success.
Lou, Islanders made a big change a couple of weeks ago, bringing in Peter DeBoer, a coach that you're familiar with. You hired him in Jersey. I think it was 15 years ago. Tell us about Peter as a coach and as a person and what he brings to the Islanders.
Well, first of all, he's an exceptional coach and even a better person. I have tremendous respect for Pete. Enjoyed working with him, and we've remained friends. All since we've met and since we worked together in New Jersey. As far as a coach, he's very structured, extremely knowledgeable of the game in and out. And I think his most important attribute is that he holds players accountable to what are their best assets. He doesn't expect out of people what they can't do, maximizes who they are, and puts them all together. So I think the fans and the players will embrace him and really enjoy his style and just the way he can articulate the game to the players and how he will communicate to the fans.
And Lou, Matthew, the Islanders got the good fortune of being able to draft a player like Matthew Schaefer this past summer, and he's obviously had a huge impact on this team. Maybe you can just talk about that a little bit, and maybe just how does that potentially change your approach to building a team when you get such a special player like that?
Well, first of all, I don't know what I can add to what has already been said
Right.
about him. What I know about him is watching him play. I've seen just about every game. There is no question the talent that he has and the way he handles himself on that ice. You'd never could imagine that he'd be an 18-year-old. I really enjoy watching his demeanor. I know he's very charismatic to the fans and everything, but notice how he changes once he steps on that ice. His total focus and total concentration. After a goal or an assist, he'll engage and smile, but he's committed. And I have so much respect for him. And I've had the opportunity to meet him, and he's even a better person. This is someone extremely special, and the Islanders are very fortunate to have him. And I believe he's very fortunate to be here also.
Lou, we're seeing, two of your other teams that you managed were recently looking for general managers. Toronto is kind of still starting that process, and New Jersey just named a new general manager. And the key words that I think that were used by ownership they were looking for somebody data-driven. And I know your relationship to data and analytics goes way, way back. What does analytics and data mean to you when somebody throws those words out now in relation to managing a team?
Well, first of all, I think it's the new buzzword, but they have always been there. I think what's happened is technology has been able to bring forward more information at a rapid state that is created outside and generated. And there's many groups that are doing it, but a lot of teams have taken what other people have done and really incorporated what they want and what they feel necessary. And yes, I've been, working with analytics in a different way than people think that I'm totally old school. Actually, analytics was something that I had the good fortune to play for a college coach in my days who was analytic driven in those days, who was a school principal. And he brought his teachers, and that is he could do for our home games, and assigned a certain position to each one of them, and kept every single statistic you can imagine on that. And we got a report card every game, how many passes we had out of the zone, how many, where we had shots and so forth, and did that on each player, including the goaltending. So I was a little familiar with that and tried to see in my years the way matchups were. Home and away statistics change quite, because of the long change in the second period. So it's how you use the data that's put, and it's the data that's put in that comes out, and how you use it, and how it can affect, sort of making your team or making a player better. You have to be very careful with it because it can be used in the wrong way. If you can rationalize through the statistic of what should have happened and what didn't happen. Mm-hmm. The way I look at it is there's two things. There's watching the game and understanding what transpired out there, knowing who the matchups were, who played against who, and then post looking at the statistics and understanding, what do they come close to what I saw in the game, and also understanding who players played with. I can give you many examples of I'll go back to a couple of players in the past. And when I was in New Jersey, I'll go back to that. I won't go to the Islanders, but every defenseman that played with Andy Green, statistics were better. Mm-hmm. Those type of things you can recognize when you're keeping statistic and analyzing, and also who they're playing against. So I'm a believer in it, but you have to be very careful also because there's a human value into the individual at different times of the game. Who would you really want out there? All types of things. Stats can't tell you. And I go back to a great saying of Red Auerbach when statistics and analytics first came in. He says, I'm really looking for the statistic that can measure the size of a player's heart.
Mm-hmm. And Lou, you mentioned human value, and you talk about what a special player, special person that Matthew Schaefer is. Is he the type of player that can help grow this game, not only by his play on the ice, but just because of this just wonderful personality that he has, right? Such a charming young kid. He has a great head in his shoulders. Is he a player that the league can kind of, capitalize on, I guess you would say, to help grow this game?
Well, first of all, remember what he's a hockey player, and his professional role is to be the best player he can, with the New York Islanders. As far as because of what he's has been, and this is only his first year, so we have to be very careful. There's no question he's going to be tremendous, but he's 18 years old, and give him an opportunity to grow into the game. He will automatically be promoting the game because of the way he can take interviews, the way he has that, as I said, charisma about himself and his play. So I don't think there's going to be any problem with that, but I don't think the league should latch on to any one individual.
Lou, when Matthew Darsh made the decision to hire Peter DeBoer in the middle of the season, the aggressiveness kind of reminded me of your courting and ultimate signing of Barry Trotz as coach, which was such a transformational moment soon after you took over as GM. Can you think back to that summer? It was such an interesting time when Barry kind of steps off the parade float with the Caps, and all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, you got him signing on the dotted line. And what did it mean to that Islander group that you had just taken over?
Well, first of all, Arthur, you were there, and once when I did come, I looked at the statistics as far as what transpired the year before and the year prior. If you recall, the Islanders gave up more goals in that given year than ever in the history of the National Hockey League.
Mm-hmm.
And they did score goals, but they gave up more. And you can win games by scoring goals, but if you ever want to win championships, you have to have good defense. You see that in the games that are out there right now, even this afternoon and tonight. And Barry became available, and I knew of his style. Certainly watched him coach, and I thought he was one of the best, defensive coaches. And structurally, this is what was needed here. We were fortunate to get him, and the players bought in right away. And certainly, that's what turned it around. There was a commitment to defense, not taking away any offense. And we got the goal differential where it should be. I'm a goal differential person, not how many goals you score. It's a combination of both.
So, Lou, to piggyback off of that and to speak as a fan for a moment, I'm too young to remember the Cup years, to experience them, but I'm old enough to remember the leaner years for the New York Islanders. And that period of time with yourself and Barry Trotz was the best Islanders hockey I've ever got to witness. The runs to the conference finals, nearly getting there to the end. And I guess I just wanted to ask you, looking back on that, is there any moment or anything about that experience for you with the New York Islanders that you're most proud of?
Well, I think we were all proud of where we were at, but I think what it is, and I can say this to the fans and anyone listening, there's such a fine line between winning and losing. And I've had that experience. I remember more of the games that we lost where we had the opportunity to win the Stanley Cup, whether it be in the second round or the third round. And, we were very close. And today's game, the parity that's here, you're closer than you think you are. And that's what you have to get the players to believe. The talent is at parity. Yes, there's a team here that might have maybe a little more skill, but it has to do with playing, as a team. I've always said, players win individual games, but championships are won by teams. And I think that in those earlier days there, we had a tremendous opportunity to have success. In fact, if you look at you go 7 games with the Stanley Cup winner, I mean, that's what it's all about. But it's closer than you think. I mean, you look at a team that's playing right now that, something turned around in the middle of the year, and, they have as good a chance of winning as anybody does right now. So I have to be very, very careful. We were very close. And even, the recent teams, injuries play a role. So much plays a role. And it's very, very tough to dismantle a team in this type of era and think you can rebuild. All you have to look at is the examples out there. You have to have veterans who can help younger players grow with confidence, who have had the experience of winning. You can't teach winning. You have to experience it.
Lou, you and I talked over many times over the years about your approach to development and prospects, and patience is always the way that you erred on the side of. And when you look at a player like Simon Holmstrom, who you had a lot of patience with, he came over, I think he was the youngest player in North America when he first came over his draft year to play in the AHL. And now he's a contributing top 6 player. He's a 20-goal scorer. He's an elite shorthanded player. Tell me about your approach with him and how rewarding it was to see him grow slowly but steadily into the player that he's becoming.
Well, there's no question. We're all very proud of him. He had the patience when he came over, to work at the game, and he will continue to get better and better. But the one thing he always had was hockey sense, which you can't teach, and he also had a frame of hockey strength. He had the body for it from the waist down. And very difficult to get off his feet, and very strong in the corner. So he had hockey sense, he had hockey strength, and what he had to do was just believe in himself and grow in it, get some confidence, and you can see that in his play today. As you said, he's one of the better two-way players in the game, in my opinion, or will be, and both offensively and defensively. He finds a way to score a big goal at the right time, never gets rattled, has a great demeanor about him. But he did have the patience, and I wish we could do that more often now in the game. But with the early free agency the way it is, and players coming in and going right into the league and almost demanding that in their own way, as far as the college kids coming out, they want to step in. But I would wish that you could always have 1 or 2 years minimum in the minors, because it's difficult to play in the minors. It's difficult with the way they play, and it helps you grow.
And Lou, you won a World Cup of hockey back in '96 with the United States. How meaningful was it to see the U.S. win gold this year in the Olympics, and what can that do for hockey here in the United States?
Well, I think it's unlimited of what that did. You go back to the change in the game, so to speak, as far as the U.S. hockey. You go back to, I always said that the 1980 Olympic victory recognized the American player, and they've got an opportunity, a better opportunity to play in the NHL. And then you go to the 96 win there. And when you looked at the two rosters of Canada and USA, you'd say, oh boy. And I've always said that said the American player has arrived. And this recent Olympics just endorsed it. You look at the viewers that we had. You look at the way the players have been treated throughout the states who played, and also the recognition the game has received. And I look forward to these playoffs that are with us right now. And I think that a lot of casual hockey fans that became interested hockey fans because of the Olympics are watching the playoffs, and certainly watching a lot of the players, both on Canada, U.S., and European players who played in those games.
Lou, last one for me. And again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your knowledge. I can't count probably over the years the number of GMs and people in other front offices that I've talked to who have told me personally that when they got their first job, the first person who called them was you to offer advice, help, whatever they needed. And that's always impressed me a lot. And I'm wondering why you did it. You've been in the league a long time. You love to win. These are your competitors, but you were always willing to offer a hand. Is it just the fraternity of the people who have that job and how you wanted to see the game grow?
Well, after you go back to when I came in the game, I came out of college, very, very few at that given time. And there were several general managers, Harry Sinden, Serge Savard. One of the first phone calls I got from them. And I had players who were in college and had associations with them because they went to pro from Providence at that time, and they took the time to make that call. I knew home port in that call. Not that I expected anything, but it was, and you remember that. And so why can't you extend that out and create that? The competitiveness is one thing, but the relationships is lifelong lasting.
Outstanding. Well, Lou, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show tonight. We really appreciate your time, and hope you have a great rest of your Sunday night.
Thank you. I'm going to watch hockey. I'm sure you are too.
Yes,
Thanks,
indeed.
Lou.
Thanks so much. All right, folks, that was the great Lou Lamoriello joining us here on Hockey Night New York, and that will do it for On the Line, presented by Razor, Kniff, and Launstein, ready to fight when your good name is on the line. So with that, folks, we're going to take one more break, and then we'll be back.
Representation, it's not always easy to know where to turn. But whether you've been accused of a crime or need to go to court, Razor, Kniff, and Launstein, attorneys at law, have you covered with over 100 years of combined experience. With offices in Manhattan, Mineola, and Suffolk, Razor, Kniff, and Launstein is an award-winning law firm specializing in criminal defense with additional expertise in business debt settlement, trust and estates, personal injury, and more. At Razor, Kniff, and Launstein, you'll have direct access to your attorney 24/7. Because more attentive service translates to better outcomes. You deserve legal representatives with national recognition and a strong track record of delivering results. And Razor, Kniff, and Launstein are ready to fight for you. Call 212-LAW-1500 or go to razorandkniff.com to schedule a free, no-risk consultation today. That's RAISERANDKENNIFF.com. Razor, Kniff, and Launstein. We win cases because we make your problems our problems.
Thanks for giving some time to our sponsors. Ready to talk more Isles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
That is correct, ladies and gentlemen. The train rolls on here at Hockey Night in New York, and it's time for What's on Tap. We're gonna go to What's on Tap for a little bit here. What's on Tap, Arthur? Playoff hockey, not for the Islanders.
No,
but the NHL has playoff hockey, and it's the best time of the year.
And the AHL.
That too. That's right.
There is some.
You're ruining my segue, but yes, yes.
No, listen. The first. You can say what you want about the playoffs, too long, yada yada. The first 2 weeks of it are just insane. It's like every year that the Islanders aren't in it and I don't have to work, I say I'm not going to watch. The wife and kids, I'll give them plenty of attention.
Sure.
After missing lots of things throughout the season, and there I am back. Like yesterday, I could have gone and done 10 different things. I was watching hockey. It's the greatest.
One of my favorite days of the year is the first Saturday in the first round of the playoffs, because as they did again this year, they stacked the games. It's just all day playoff hockey, and it's the best hockey you're going to see.
And how great was it 3 seconds into game one?
Right.
Brady Tkachuk, Jordan Stahl. Anders Lee was kind of the forerunner there. He helped set him up.
Like, is Brady just going to have a fight in the start of every game that he has now?
I mean, we saw him do it twice against the Islanders and he won those. He was probably thinking like, well, let's make it 3 in a row. Apparently,
4 nations.
That's right. Apparently,
this is a thing.
Apparently, it didn't get his Senators started. And frankly, as every Islander fan was probably thinking, and as a few of them texted me watching that game, Ottawa was all pumped up to get out there. And then they had, 2 shots in the first 27 minutes. And you're like, all right.
Welcome to the party, pal.
I've seen this film before many times in the spring.
Yes.
It's what Carolina does. And then they score a horse bleep goal. And
you could say
come on.
Okay.
Come on. I've really seen this. So, I did pick Ottawa to win that series.
Why?
But I just feel like they had some juice going in. But Carolina does what they do, man. And now there's no Rangers to cut them down on the way to the conference final. So, I don't know. It's, I'm still excited to watch all the first games, but I don't want to see the Hurricanes do what they always do.
No, listen,
I
would love to see Ottawa win, but if I'm just looking at it as a realist, like I feel like the Canes have that one.
Listen,
we'll talk in the second round.
I know my Dallas-Tampa finals pick is not looking great here after
I feel like
the first weekend.
I feel like that's been my final for the last 2-3 years. And spoiler alert, I picked Minnesota to take down Dallas in the first round.
I had Dallas as my preseason pick, so I stuck with them.
Okay.
Dallas Jersey was my preseason cup final.
Interesting.
This close.
Yeah. Didn't work out so well.
No.
But Bridgeport has playoff hockey.
Yes. A good segue. You got it in there.
Yes. The Bridgeport Islanders, not only are they going to the playoffs, they got home ice in their first best of 3.
That's right. They have the misfortune, however, I think in the AHL, if the distance is like a flight, that first round best of 3, they play all 3 games in one city.
Okay.
Like 3-6 matchup in their division is Charlotte and Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
Springfield wears the home jerseys for game 2, but it's in Charlotte.
That's incredible.
So if Bridgeport had gotten home ice against Charlotte, they'd get 3 games probably.
And so they'll do like the face-off rules and stuff as if
everything. It's
interesting.
wild. But
Okay.
since it's Bridgeport and Hershey, which is just a bus ride, they go back and forth.
So now is that 1-1-1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I believe.
Okay.
So there's potential for, when we're getting on the air for our season wrap-up, that Bridgeport could be getting ready for the second round.
Okay.
And that sure hasn't happened in a long time.
We can put that on tap.
That's
next
right.
week. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. All right. And now we had a short chat before we got on the air here, and we're going to talk more about this with Jake later. But Semyon Varlamov not eligible.
Right. You have to be sent down on NHL trade deadline. You have to, it's like a paper transaction. You have to be on the AHL roster to be eligible for the AHL playoffs. So you'll see young players like Cal Ritchie was sent down a paper transaction, so he's gone down to play, which honestly a bit of a surprise.
Sure.
Played whatever 70 NHL games, but good for him for wanting to go.
Yeah.
And I think it's good for his development. Victor Eklund obviously came up and played that one game. He's going to stay back there because he was not on any roster, so he's allowed because he's on an amateur tryout.
Okay.
Daniil Prokhorov, another draft pick who just came over, played one game, took a shot off the leg. Hopefully he's fine. He might get in a game. But yeah, Varlamov was not on that roster, so he can't play. But it was,
that's too bad.
I have to say, it was kind of emotional, I think, for a lot of people
to
see him play those 2 games. I mean, 2 knee replacements. That's incredible. And I don't know that he'll be able to come back, goalies and having, whether it's a hip or a knee done, especially at his age. But it sounds like he's going to give it a go. And he's obviously got another year left on his deal. I'm sure you can't count on him to be the number 2 goalie, depending on what happens this summer. But if he gives it a go, and they've got a third guy in there who's maybe like a tweener, maybe he can still be an NHL goalie again, at least for a little while. It'd be an incredible comeback after pretty much 2 full years away.
Either way, all the credit in the world just for battling back.
And really,
pretty impressive.
Talking with Lou is a reminder, like Varley was nails in those 2 playoffs.
Hell yeah, he was.
I mean, Ilya Sorokin, I know, played a couple of the games because Varlamov's knee was already starting to act up in that 21 postseason, but yeah, and who can forget the dive down the ice after the
Eberle's
Jordan Eberle
game 5 overtime winner.
That's a hell of a remembrance, and anybody who knows Varley knows he's kind of a serious guy, so that was a fun moment.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and what else is on tap? Well, like we said before, we'll be back next week. Little season wrap. We'll do a deeper dive into the season that was for the New York Islanders and look ahead to the summer that will be, starting with the draft lottery. Maybe at 2%, the Islanders can strike gold again. Probably not. But we'll look at it anyway and what they may or may not do in a very important offseason, as you noted.
Hopefully a lot. Because I feel like that's what they need to do.
I agree. I know
Lou told us that it's hard to change a team around, but
yes,
I'm going to defy the Hall of Famer and say I think they need it.
The Matthew Darsh is on the clock.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. Yeah. So now we're going to take it to the Snake Den.
Welcome to the Snake Den with Jake the Snake Redonis.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to bring in Jake the Snake Redonis with his beautiful Buffalo Sabres hat. Jake, how do you do tonight?
Doing good. Yes, I'm ripping the bandwagon, but I've been on them.
I'm on it too, man.
You had it before.
I have been on it all year.
Yes.
And honestly, like when I was up at school upstate too, I'd root for them. Wasn't rooting for much though at the time, but yeah, I'm so happy playoff hockey's back.
Yes.
Sucks the Islanders aren't in it.
Yes.
But now me and my Rangers friends can watch some games and not be throwing jabs at each other's watch.
Are you guys united here?
We are a little bit united here.
The Rangers fans are going for the Sabres, huh?
A little bit. More so we could just enjoy the games and, it's not, we're watching the Islanders and they're saying things and,
They can't even find solace in baseball right now, right? Both teams are sucking it up big time?
Big time.
Mostly the Mets.
Yes, mainly the Mets. We don't gotta go there.
11 in a row?
11 in a row.
That's
so
tough.
Buffalo, New York's hope, and the Knicks.
Who would have ever thought?
Have you seen any of the clips from up there already? That the fans going wild up there?
They're ridiculous. I saw Ryan Whitney post a couple things.
Yes.
People are like fighting a mannequin in the street with the Bruins jersey on.
I like it.
I didn't see any of that in 2002, but the excitement and energy does remind me of 02 just because, what was it, 7 years, I think, since the Islanders made the playoffs?
I mean, if the Islanders make it every year, it's that exciting. That's what's
the
great
fans
about
come
this fan
out.
base.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Small but passionate.
Every Islander person who's new, who came in since I started covering the team in 2012-13 with that first return to the playoffs, everybody who came in or was part of that, even on the Pittsburgh side, would be like, man, it's just like the building was insane. It was shaking. Like Josh Bailey was telling us about it last week. It's awesome. It's awesome. And that makes me even more frustrated that they fell apart here.
Yeah, sad times. But Jake, let's make it happier times. What do you got for us, man?
Yeah, I thought we'd talk about Bridgeport, but also talk about the NHL playoffs. So let's start with Bridgeport. I know you already touched on it a little bit here, but game 1 Tuesday, they're locked into their matchup. They're playing the Hershey Bears. They also played them last night. That was Varlamov's second game in net. By the way, Varlamov stopped 46 of 49 shots in his 2 outings.
Not bad.
Not too shabby. That's a 938 save percentage for someone who just had 2 knee replacement.
He didn't just have the surgery.
Yeah.
He hasn't done a whole lot on the ice.
So, so we got that coming up. Exciting times, too. We know, obviously, Bridgeport's going to Hamilton next year.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were able to secure home ice, I think, is so awesome just for that place out there in Bridgeport and those fans who stayed loyal through some bad times over there.
Yeah.
And they at least have one home game. If they go to game 3, that would be also at Total Mortgage.
And that's Saturday, right?
Correct. So
might have to. I think so.
Tuesday, game 1.
Hopping on the ferry?
Why not? Well, that's out east. Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I'd probably just curve around.
Those are in my parts.
Yeah.
So Tuesday, game 1 at home. Then Thursday would be away for game 2, and then if necessary, game 3, as it's a 3-game series. Go from there, though. And so talk about some guys over there. They got a pretty good-looking team. Obviously, you saw Daniil Prokhorov come over. I don't know if I was expecting to see that, but very exciting to see. Cal Ritchie going down. We talked about. We were talking about this when the Islanders were still in the mix. The importance of getting those guys some NHL playoff games. At least he's going to go down there and play in some competitive games down there. Work on his development. Obviously, he's looked very good for the Islanders. I think that he could probably tear it up in Bridgeport. So, got to be exciting for those guys to have him down there. Cole Eiserman's riding a 4-game point streak, 1 goal, 5 assists. Usually, we hear it the other way around. But
man.
It's nice to see him performing. Obviously, we saw Eklund come up. I was at that game. I thought he looked awesome. Throwing hits anytime he had the chance to do it. 18-year-old or 19-year-old kid going out and doing that. I thought he played a very strong game. Obviously, see his stats over there. He's tearing it up. So just continued development for him, for someone who's probably going to push for a roster spot next year. He'll be a big part of what kind of success they have in this playoff. Then you have Isaiah George is back with them. And then I think it was Tony D'Angelo, if I'm not mistaken, made that comment about George. He's an NHL defenseman. So it was probably very nice for him to hear.
I think Peter DeBoer.
Yeah, I think it was DeBoer. Yeah, or maybe both. Yeah.
Now you have someone with that much confidence going down there to help your blue line.
There you go.
Very good. And then Varley can't play, but
shucks.
Yeah, sucks. But then you got some other guys down there. Beckman, Maggio.
30-goal season for Adam Beckman, I saw.
Yes. So they have tons of talent down there, and I think this is just an exciting time for Bridgeport. Hey, last season there, let's go out with a bang.
Make it last as long as you can, but very selfishly, I hope this opening round does go 3 games, because I am fairly serious about trying to make it up there.
If they win in 2. And also, the funniest part of all, a couple of Bridgeport legends coming in with Hershey. Captain of the Hershey Bears is Aaron Ness, longtime Bridgeport Sound Tiger and Islander, brief and New York Islander. And their assistant coach is Brent Thompson.
How about that?
Who was also a longtime Bridgeport coach. And Islanders assistant coach and father of Tage Thompson.
Yes.
So I kind of like that little, put a little bow on the 25 years in Bridgeport, 26 years in Bridgeport with a couple of guys who were there for a long time. Aaron Ness, one of my favorite people, little guy, tough as nails. He's been playing. I think he's been at Hershey now 5 or 6 years. So
how about that?
It's good to see. Good to see guys like that. Islander draft pick. Stuck around for a pretty good long career. And Brent Thompson, he was coach in Anaheim, I think, with Greg Cronin. He's bounced around quite a bit, but that old coaching staff with him, Jack Capuano, Scotty Allen, who's still in Washington,
Squad Allen,
the Bulldog. Dean Schnauth, who I think is in Winnipeg. So, I knew those guys really well. That was back in I was the only media guy around. So those guys are all my age too. So it was nice to get to know them. And even though I picked Dallas to win the Cup, Jack Capuano is the associate coach in Minnesota. Certainly like to see him succeed as well. But Brent Thompson being back there for the last Bridgeport playoff series, potentially last Bridgeport players, hopefully not, but that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And hopefully this run goes as long as it can. But you know what? I looked at the standings, and we touched on how wild like the playoff format is, but I also looked at like the top 3 teams, I think it was, in Bridgeport's division were ahead by like 20 points. Like the disparity was like
Providence
crazy.
Nearly set an age. They were fell one point short of the AHL points percentage. Right?
Okay.
So yeah.
So it's a tall task.
If they win, I think I'm trying to remember who the number 2 team in the division is. They're pretty far ahead.
Yes.
Too. Yeah. So whoever it is, it's going to be a tough one, even if they get through. But yeah, if it's the 4 or 5 matchups. So yes, if Bridgeport wins, they probably get Providence. So,
one short series at a time.
So go see them next week. Long story short.
Yes.
Try to see them next week.
Fair enough. Jake, what else you got, bud?
Never say never on that. By the way, those games are on AHL TV on Flow Hockey.
Okay.
I looked into that before I saw a question in the chat, so just wanted to point that out. So let's talk NHL playoffs.
Yeah.
Best time of the year, right?
Yes,
I
indeed.
figured we'd go matchup by matchup.
Let's do it.
So we'll start with the Avs and the Kings.
Okay.
2 former Islanders there, of course. Devon Taves traded away some years back.
You're pretty bold to say that after Lou was on the show, Jake. You could have come out here and confronted him if you wanted.
I didn't say anything else.
Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it?
And then you got Brock out there. I mean, I would have loved to see, I think everybody obviously would have loved to see Brock raise the cup as an Islander, but if someone else is going to do it, Avs, let's see Brock raise a cup over there. I think that would be awesome. Especially had a great year this year. He's exactly what they kind of needed. You look at that roster, it's just so complete. I know I'm not even talking about the Kings here because I think the Avs are going to take care of them fairly easily.
Today was a little tighter than they probably would have liked.
Yeah, you know what? And you forget they have playoff Panarin, so that's always going to be kind of tough. But today was a pretty good game. Brock over there. So he also had 33 goals again this year, just so consistent with scoring goals. And you can talk about McKinnon, Makar. Just when you look at a team in these playoffs, and we've talked about it this whole season, this is just the most complete team out there. There's a reason why they were President's Trophy winners. Now, can they break the curse? I don't know. I picked the Avs there. What do you guys got?
I went with the Avs.
I think Avs in 5. And we should point out, just to bring it back around, Brock had his 1,000th game. They had a celebration for him.
Yes.
Josh Bailey, who we had on the show, Cal Clutterbuck, Matt Martin, all out there in person.
Oh, really?
They flew out to Denver to help him
that's
celebrate.
awesome. That's awesome.
It's great seeing Brock with his wife Carly and their kids and his folks. Brock's one of one. He was always one of my favorite guys. Very, very subtle, sharp sense of humor. Low key, one of the funniest guys on the team for a long time. And what a year it's been for him. 1,000 games, winning Olympic gold. They win a cup, man. What a year. Just walk away.
The Ken Morrow of the Colorado Avalanche.
That's right. He's got a little more gray than Kenny had when he came to the Islanders in 1980, but that would be quite a season.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. And next we have Dallas, Minnesota, which you talk about. It's probably the marquee matchup, I would say, of this first round. Yeah. Obviously, that's one that makes people talk a lot about maybe switching up some of the formatting for the playoffs.
It's every
Pittsburgh, Philly, man.
Yes.
Everybody goes nuts for that. It's always some team.
It's so dumb.
It used to be the Atlantic. We'd always hear it from the Leafs media and fans that they were getting unfairly treated because they were in the toughest division. Now it's the Central. Next year it'll be a different division.
I want the Southeast division back.
Grow up and get over it.
I honestly expected all these games in this series to be very close. Clearly that is not the case. Last night Minnesota put the hurt on them.
Yeah.
But talk about a series that's full of stars. No pun intended there, by the way.
Nice.
But Kaprizov, Boldy, Hughes.
That goal by Kaprizov last night.
Oh my goodness.
You didn't see that.
No, I did right over the shoulder. I saw it.
Yeah, that was.
I'm sorry I didn't react appropriately.
Just when you looked at me, you were just like, who? Who's that?
Does he play hockey?
You got those guys over in Minnesota, and then you got Robertson, Rantanen, Johnston, Heiskanen, Ottinger, who let in 6 goals, but it's okay.
Ottinger needs to step it up if he wants to be listed in that group.
Absolutely.
I do love the new uniforms that Dallas is wearing now. The kind of the tribute to the old ones, but updated with the black and victory green.
They wanted to accentuate it because they're playing the Minnesota team. So
That's a good call, too.
It's a nice little mix there.
Have they been talking up that narrative around the series, the whole Minnesota versus
bit.
Dallas thing?
A little bit. Not
Yeah,
that
we've already forgotten.
Yeah.
We're already past that. All right. Well, those uniforms I think are great. They should switch to those full time.
Yeah.
I picked Dallas in this one in 7
Me too.
after last night, and because they're also my cup pick as well.
Wild in 7.
Right.
So
Now I'm going Wild in 4.
yeah, so after last night, not feeling too great about that pick, but yeah, that's Dallas, Minnesota. Then you got Vegas, Utah, which kicks off tonight at 10:30. This is an interesting one.
Johnny Torts.
Yep, John Tortorella, exactly. They pick him up, and they've been on fire since they've done that. I think like the honus around Vegas this year was that they struggle against good teams. Now they're in the playoffs and they have to play good teams. And Utah is young, up and coming, very fast. I'm curious to see what happens there. I know Vegas has some questions on their goaltending. Vegemelka for Utah this year had a great season. You obviously talk about loads of young talent. Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz.
Dylan Genther.
Dylan Guenther.
Who, the one Islander game I attended this year, Dylan Genther was played out of his mind. So I'm interested to see him play. In the
Very
playoffs.
interested too. I just think with this series, though, you look at Vegas. Vegas is in the playoffs every year. You have a team that hasn't been in the playoffs and a team that goes deep. I think usually history will tell you that Vegas probably should win that series, but I think that this can go 7, and I'm going with Utah here.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I took Vegas. I think I took Vegas in 7. I think it's going to be a long one. I'm not that impressed by the way Vegas has played. I think Carter Hart's getting the game 1 start. I don't think he's going to be in there by the end of this series. So we'll
I
see
agree
how it
there.
goes.
I don't think they have what it takes, but you know who I'd like to see win a cup this year? Mitch Marner.
Oh,
I would
your
love
Toronto hatred
to see that.
supersedes every other emotion that you feel.
Yeah.
It's so incredible.
Toronto's had a rough
It's
week for a while.
fun, man. It's just fun. It's
All right.
just fun. Like you know, it just
We could be sitting here this time next year, hopefully talking about Islanders playoff games, but we could be talking about Austin Matthews, whatever new team he's on.
on the
Very
New
true.
York Islanders. We
Yes.
talked about that already.
Okay. Let's not.
Next, we'll go to
Yes.
the last matchup in the West, which is the Oilers and the Ducks, featuring Ross the Boss Johnston over there in
Ross
Anaheim.
And there we go.
And the New York Rangers West. The Ducks,
Yes.
obviously,
Yes.
big switch up this year. They bring in Joel Quenneville, phenomenal coach. I still think they're some years out from really competing. I think it's awesome that they're in the playoffs. I think that they could score a ton of goals, so that should just be a fun series in that in its own right. But then you got Connor McDavid. I know Draisaitl's coming back from injury. I don't really know what his status is there, but the Oilers are a team that's gone to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, and you have a fairly new team in there, and you have the best player in the world. I'm going with the Oilers, taking care of this one in 6.
I'm with you on
Yeah,
that.
I'd be a little concerned about the Oilers' goaltending. I mean, Connor Ingram's
Very
probably
fair.
going to be the guy, and Tristan Jarry really seems kind of lost since he's been out there. But if Ingram can hold down the fort, Connor McDavid's Connor McDavid. He's got another gear to his game. I don't know if anybody on Ducks can match
Level
that.
it up, yeah.
But they do have Radko Gudas, so you never know when he's going to stick his leg out and impact the series.
That's true. And to add to the most important element of this series, I really like the Ducks uniforms in the series. The home oranges are just beautiful.
They really are.
You're like my 7-year-old. That's how she did
That's
her.
what I'm doing
her
here. Yeah,
Madness
that's the
bracket.
stick here.
You
Yeah,
just showed her the pictures, of the uniforms. She just
they're the
pointed.
prettiest team on the ice.
And
The
she
reason
almost
she-
won.
the
She
reason
almost
Sean
won,
is
so it's
saying
not a bad plan.
The reason you're saying that, Sean, is because you want the Islanders to get the orange back.
You know,
just put it out there.
Jake, I love that you picked up on that, but it's so damn true. For the love of God, just bring us a nice orange jersey for
Fair enough.
Need
for
it.
once. Yeah.
So let's head over to the East. This game is actually going on right now. Sabres and Bruins. I think that this is going to be a fun series.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think you guys know who I picked. I'm wearing the hat
Yes,
right now.
yes,
But
yes.
just playoff drought over for Buffalo. You see what's going on in the city today, just rejuvenated. Obviously, a team that lives and dies with
Hopefully,
their sports
minimal
team.
arrests.
Yes, but team with loads of talent. I mean, young talent too. Tage Thompson, this guy is unreal. He could score from anywhere. Rasmus Dahlin, blow people up middle of the ice, but then he'll go out and put some offense on there. Not a fun guy to play with at all. Play against, I should say, rather.
I was gonna
But
say, how do
I'm
you know
curious to
about
see
that?
him, how he acts in this series, because he's one to kind of get a little pesky and mix things up. The Bruins, too, I think a lot of people didn't know who they were going to be this year. They obviously have David Pastrnak, who's all-world. James Hagen's Long Island native up with them
Jumped
now.
right. What did he play? One regular season game right into the playoff.
Yeah.
Why not? Why
So,
not?
yeah, I'm going. I think this is going to go the distance, though. I think this is going to go 7. I think it's going to be a fun series. I think you're going to see a lot of goals in this series. The one thing is, though, Jeremy Swayman is Jeremy Swayman. So if a goalie were to steal a series, I think that you look at this series there.
I think you might be
Bruins.
right. I think that's the reason it's going to go far, is that Swayman is
And the
best goalie.
experience of the Boston Bruins, you know,
No experience.
the veterans like Pasternak and other guys.
They're actually not that like they've kind of changed a lot. They don't really have a ton. Like I was looking, they had when they were doing their morning skate stretch, they had 5 guys who were making their playoff debuts in the middle. That's a lot.
That's a lot, but it's not a majority,
Yeah.
Arthur.
And I'd like to, James Hagens, he's an Islander fan. Let's make
He
him
doesn't
happy.
have experience.
Let's make him happy. I'm pulling for the Bruins despite all the Sabres love, but I think it's going to be a fun one.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then another game that's going on, it may be over by now, but Tampa Montreal, which was a barn burner when we were watching before, it was 3-3 with a couple minutes left in the third there. This is another matchup that's going to be a ton of fun,
Montreal,
I think.
man, we were talking about it. What a fun team to watch.
Oh my goodness,
Yes.
yeah. Nick Suzuki, just a monster year.
Caulfield,
Cole Caulfield,
Slavkovsky.
right up against it. He almost goes and catches Nathan McKinnon at the end there, and very young doing that too. And then Islander, Noah Dobson, not playing right now. He's coming back from injury.
Right.
I think that they're reevaluating sometime next week. I believe I read that. This series is going to be awesome. I think that you have the Hart winner, in my opinion, and Kucherov playing for Tampa.
I'll agree with you on that.
Sure.
Brandon Hagel could score. I mean, Braden Point, I know he's had kind of a weird year, but he's a playoff performer. A team that has a championship pedigree year in and year out in Tampa. I'm leaning Tampa here, but it would not shock me at all if Montreal was able to steal this series.
I picked Montreal.
Bold choice.
It is.
Okay.
But I like to make those sometimes.
Sure.
Montreal. There we go.
Then we got the Hurricanes and the Sens that kicked off yesterday. Another boring game, but
Just the way Carolina likes it.
yes. I think a lot of people talk about Carolina this year. If there's a year for them to finally break the hump and get back to that Stanley Cup final, this might be it. But this Senators team, I actually picked the Sens in this series. I did change after yesterday's game, I will say that. But this Sens team got hot late. They wanted it. They wanted to get in those playoffs. Maybe it didn't look like that too much yesterday, but it's a very talented team.
Yeah.
Yes.
It looked, it reminded me a little bit of some of those Islanders, like first game of the playoffs in 2013 when you had a team that hadn't been in the playoffs in a long time. A lot of guys who have never been there, like Ottawa has. The moment can be a little bit big. And I actually thought, when Brady Tkachuk the fight 3 seconds in, trying to get his team fired up, I thought that was a smart decision by him. They just seemed timid, when we saw them play these last 2 times that the Islanders played them, they were really on their toes, and they've really been on their toes for the last month and a half. They had a big push to get back into the playoff race and really clinched it by a fair margin. I just think, they looked okay yesterday at times. The fact that they weren't really generating enough, and they were only down a goal really for the whole game, and it was kind of a bad one that Olmark gave up. I thought he played okay too. So I feel like they're not that far off. If they come back with a good performance tomorrow, I think they can take this series. I think the same issue with the Hurricanes is they play the way that they play, and if someone punches them in the mouth and changes things up on them, they don't really adapt very well. So I think, Travis Green's a really good coach. And, it's funny we're talking about Joel Quenneville making a difference. We talked with Lou about Barry Trotz. John Cooper is a guy who can coach a bunch of these no-name Lightning. It should give you hope as an Islander fan. Peter DeBoer is a coach who can make a difference with a full season and a full year to prepare. I feel like next year, even if we don't see the roster change the way that I think it should, or maybe some other fans think it should, this coach will make a difference. And the difference, a coaching difference, if you win 5 games that you didn't win the year before, you're in the playoffs.
We had a prime example of this with Barry Trotz.
Yeah, we did.
We really did.
And when in Lou kind of explaining why he was so aggressive getting Barry Trotz to shore up their defense, they're in a similar situation now where they don't defend very well. They don't give up as much because they have one of the better goalies.
Right.
But they need to defend better. And you've got a coach who's got a track record of doing that, who's had success doing that. It's exciting. This is what I mean when I say we're kind of in this golden age of how coaches can make a difference. And we're seeing it with a lot of these teams. Not necessarily anybody that can win a Stanley Cup, but transforming a team that looked a little bit lost into one that's a little bit more focused and having more success.
Good point. And Mike Riley will be on the Hurricanes for that one. So there's another former Islander to watch.
I sure forgot he was a former Islander.
Yes.
That's fair. It was short-lived.
It was.
Yes.
It was short-lived.
He was
had a health scare too.
He did.
Yes.
He did. Masterton nominee.
Big time.
Great guy, well-traveled, but a lot of friends in the league. It's nice to see him latch on with Carolina, a team that kind of plays a style that fits him a little bit better than the Islanders did. So we'll see how many games he gets into and how much impact he has on the series.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. And then another former Islander on this next matchup. We have the Battle of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Which
the 7th versus 8th seed. That's
yes,
right.
Oh, stop.
which I don't know about you guys, but I had the Penguins winning this one with pretty much ease in this.
No, I picked Philly. I got
okay.
I go to the data like Lou.
Of course.
Philly doesn't score very much this year, but they were top 5 defending against the rush and defending rush chances in terms of limiting high danger chances. When you look at the history, Clearside Hockey, my buddy Steve Valaquette, his site, that's the stat. If you're in the top 10 in that stat, you have a better chance of playoff success historically than if you're in the middle or the bottom. And Philly, I think, was 3rd this year in suppressing rush chances. And I think you saw it last night in game 1.
Absolutely.
The way they counterattack, they don't score, but man, they seem like they had breakaway after breakaway in the second period because Pittsburgh kept turning the puck over as they tried to get to their rush game, which is really the heart of their success this season. So Pittsburgh can't adjust, and I like what Dan Muse has done, and maybe he can. I don't know if he has the horses to do it. Because I thought Sidney Crosby really looked impacted by his injury. He didn't look like himself last night. If they can't get adjusted, Philly's got a really good formula, I think, to win that matchup. I don't know how much further they can go after that, but I did pick them in this one.
I think this is going to be a tough, long series, and close to a coin flip for sure.
Okay.
But I went with Pittsburgh.
My mind absolutely changed after watching last night's game.
Could you
too.
stop changing your
I love
mind?
how easy you change your
After
mind.
one game? Oh, well, you know what? Maybe not.
He's going to come in next week with the Bruins hat.
Yeah.
3-1 Boston.
Right.
Well, I lock in my picks on the bracket challenge, and then I'm watching the game, and I'm like, oh no. But
Time for another bracket.
Yeah, I'm just like, this is probably the last go at it for Crosby, Malkin, and Letang together, maybe, unless
We keep saying that, and
I
yet
know.
they keep showing back up.
I know.
And it works too.
So we'll see. All of these playoff matchups, awesome. I'm enjoying watching them to start. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Is that all you have for us today, Jake?
That is, I do have a trivia question, however.
like that.
And
Okay.
I thought we'd make it Lou related since we had him on the
How
program.
apropos.
So I could give you multiple choice, or if you guys would just like to take a shot at it.
Let's find out how hard it is
Let's
first.
So who was Lou's first free agent signing as Islanders GM?
Oh, I think
I know too.
all right, go ahead. Take your guess first.
I don't want multiple choice.
Oh,
How about
Go.
that?
Go for it.
I'm gonna go Matthew Martin.
Well,
that was a trade.
Shit.
yeah.
Shit. You're absolutely right. They traded a goalie, right? Like Corey McAdam,
Yeah,
Corey McAdam or
Eamon
something like that.
McAdam.
Eamon
Yeah.
McAdam. It was close. It was Irish.
But I do like your
Damn it.
I do like your confidence
Damn
there.
it. All right, Arthur, you go.
His first. So this is not a re-signing.
Not a re-signing.
I'm gonna think about this too.
Okay.
I'm glad to
I've got
see you
two.
woke
I've
up,
got
buddy.
two people in my head, and I'm trying to decide which one was the one that he signed first. Was it Val Filppula?
He was second.
Okay.
It's the other one you're thinking of.
Robin Leonard?
No, Leo Komarov.
Leo Komarov.
Leo. Wonderful
Uncle Leo.
Uncle
Right.
Leo.
Mike Leacoff
Yes.
tipped us off to that.
He kind of did, right?
Yeah.
He kind of did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prolific piano player. If you remember. What a guy that guy was,
Oh,
huh?
Uncle Leo, the
Yeah.
best. Oh my gosh. What a
You got any
freak.
stories?
Yeah. Let me see. So back then, when I was working for the
Yeah.
Athletic, we would do these player surveys, and they encouraged us to kind of do, different ones. They had like the standard 10 questions you'd ask everybody anonymously, and then I had a couple that I wanted to ask just for the Islanders.
Okay.
And one of them was, who has the worst taste in music in the room?
Okay.
And it was a dead heat between Leo Komarov and Johnny Boychuk. So what I did was I asked them to give me a Spotify, like a 5-song Spotify playlist that I embedded with the story.
Okay.
And Leo picked 5 versions of the same like house song.
That's amazing.
And it was so and I don't know if he was
That's so
if
funny.
he was shitting me
Yeah,
or anything,
yeah,
because you
right,
could
right,
never
right.
tell when he was serious. But Johnny's was all like dad rock. It was fine. It was like
Okay.
Foo Fighters and
All right.
stuff.
So neither was country. That's good.
No, but that country was probably, if they were country fans, they would have been popular in the room because that's what the younger guys like. But Leo giving me all this stuff and just the comments were like, what the hell? Like, what is this? And I'm like, that's him. That's Uncle Leo to a T.
That's so funny. Good stuff. Jake, anything else?
That's all I got for you.
All right, folks, that will do it for the Snake Den. Now I'm going to tell you about Isles Fix. That's right, Islanders Country. Get your daily fix of Isles news, highlights, and analysis by subscribing to Isles Fix, the Monday through Friday Islanders newsletter sent directly to your inbox. Sign up for free or become a paid subscriber for added benefits at ilesfix.substack.com. And now it's time for Questions Brewing.
It's time for Questions Brewing. So go ahead, ask us a question.
Bam. Edzo,
Let's go.
how we doing, bro?
I'm all right. I've just been laughing at the Mets to hide my pain.
Are they still losing to every
Mets?
every
Oh,
game?
They
Yeah.
lose again tonight while we were on the air.
I
thought
think
they already
they're
lost
on
it.
11 now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were 10, but this is their match. They matched their losing streak since 2004. Worst losing
That's
streak.
impressive.
With the payroll to start your own country.
Wow, that's now. How are your boys doing? I thought they were
The Yankees
slumping
won
too.
today, 7-0. Thank you very much.
All right, congratulations.
You know, they're not doing the best, but they're better.
Well, it's a low bar, Ed, but how are we doing in the chat tonight?
We're busy. We're busy.
Love
so I'm going to start it off with a combination of Chris from Long Island and James Walsh.
Okay.
Starting with Chris, he says, how does Darch evaluate if Varlamov can be the backup next year? And James adds, can you really go into next year with Varlamov as the backup with his age and health issues? And can you pay a third goalie with this team not having a lot of cap space? Also, Arthur Chris wants to know if you've ever seen the Ramones live, because he has.
Okay. Well, Arthur, take it away.
How about you, Chris? I don't think I have, actually. It's been a while. But no, I don't think you can go in assuming that Varlamov is going to be your number 2 goalie. You have to have an NHL experience backup. We can talk about it more next week. I don't think it should be David Riddick. I don't think you can re-sign a guy who you couldn't play at all down the stretch. So hopefully there's another backup goalie out there on the market that they can pay a fully able to be buried, you know, whatever, up to $1.25 million, I think you can bury in the AHL. But I think, you know, Varlamov's at 275. If he's not able to play, you've got that to play with LTIR wise, unless you trade him or something like that, or trade the contract. So no, I don't think you can rely on him, but it, like we said, it sure would be something if he can come back, because he's played at a high level for a lot of his career.
Who is this summer's Thomas Grice? Like that's what they.
I haven't done my deep Puckpedia dive yet.
Okay,
so
all right. We'll look at that next week. All right.
Next up from Magician Matt, he says, what are your thoughts on Lee's return? In my honest opinion, 2 years at $4 million is my limit.
I assume is that for the total over the course of the 2 years,
says
or
2x,
half? Like $2 million per?
No, that's 2 times. I think he's saying 4.
2x, yeah,
twice?
$4 million a year.
Okay,
That's a little much.
yeah, agreed.
I think you got to go year to year with him at this point, based on the commitments they have. I mean, I guess if we get to July 1 and they've made some trades and they've gotten rid of some guys with term, I guess you can adjust. But I feel like we're naming off guys. You know, we talked with Lou about Simon Holmstrom, Victor Eklund, Cal Ritchie, who's probably going to be a wing next year, Emil Heineman. You need to have some space for these guys. And I think that's the priority first. You know, I love Anders Lee. If you make him an offer of a year, maybe you get to 4 with some bonuses. It's like a $2 million base and then some easily attainable bonuses, so you can push them to the 27, 28 cap. Maybe you do that, but I kind of feel like 1 year is the max that I would do with Anders at this point. And if he doesn't want to do that, then you say thanks.
Speaking of bonuses, they have overages going into next year.
Thank you, Matthew Schaefer, for being so good, hitting all of his Schedule A bonuses. Yeah, I saw that. $3.5 million. That's a big check. That's a big bite. I know the cap is going up a lot, but it's sort of, I was going to get into that next week. It reinforces the idea that you need to shed some salary this offseason and shed some guys that have some term, because you need the flexibility. So yeah, I think if they're unable to really shake up the roster before we get to July 1, I think it's going to be tough to give Anders more than a year at something pretty much low, quite a bit lower than he's been making.
Agreed.
Next up from Matt, he said, other than the obvious of Eklund, Yzerman, and George, what other guys can you see potentially making the NHL roster next season, particularly in the forward group?
I mean,
no one.
Yeah,
I don't see Cole Yzerman making it out.
Right.
He certainly could, but yeah, I think that's kind of part of the issue here, is that they have a lot of guys on the wings, but they don't really have a lot of like capital G guys that we get excited about.
Right.
So I'm interested to see what they do there. But yeah, I don't. You know, Adam Beckman, 30-goal guy, but he's whatever, 28, 29. He's kind of a career AHLer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good year, and you'd like to have him back on another two-way deal just in case to bring him up. You know, guys like that have succeeded with other teams with the Islanders in the past. But yeah, I think you kind of got who you're looking at right now. Eklund is really the only one among the forwards you could see making the team next year.
No disagreements here.
Cheesecake pie. He says,
All right.
what a great combo.
Making me hungry, yeah.
Any info on Prokhorov, who was hurt playing for Bridgeport last night?
I have none.
No. I think he came back for a shift and then left again, but maybe that was just precautionary. I feel bad for the kid coming all the way over here.
Yeah, it's tough.
After
That's
a full
tough.
season in Russia, steps on the ice, first pro game, blocks a shot, which you love to see.
Sure. Yeah, hopefully that's temporary and he comes back for the series against Hershey, right?
Yeah.
Never Fails Gamer, he says, what do you think held back Marshall Warren from getting more of a chance on the Islanders during the D injuries? Islanders getting Susie showed they don't like Boquist's play.
I don't like Boquist's play either. So.
You've made that very clear on the show.
I'm not a fan. I think if you can really, we could criticize Patrick Waugh. It's always hard to know what's coaching and what's not. But he definitely seemed to sour on guys.
Yes.
Or just sort of say like, nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to play this guy.
Right.
And Marshall Warren, he was okay when he first came up. I think just going out and getting Susie kind of made that irrelevant.
Yes.
And I think when he was healthy, which didn't happen a ton this year, Isaiah George is probably significantly ahead of Marshall Warren on the depth chart. And I think a full off season of health for Isaiah George, we'll see him be more like the guy we saw 2 years ago. But Marshall Warren, I don't think anyone really expected him to come up and play.
That's
at all.
fair, yeah.
So
yeah, I agree
to
with
see
that.
him come up and play whatever it was, 7-8 games. Nice feather in his cap. He's a great kid, and be good to see him get another chance or be that kind of eighth defenseman next year too.
Yeah, and even though it didn't work out for the Islanders this year, usually you see coaches just trusting veterans, right? Trusting guys who've been in the league and who can be a little more comfortable, right? And maybe there's some of that there too.
Yeah, the first couple of games, Carson Soucy was fine. I think that again, we'll get into it more, but I think the main issue for me, unfortunately, is the guy that he was playing with, and Scott Mayfield just didn't have a great year defensively, and was injured the year before that, and I think there maybe have to be some decisions made on him this summer.
Yes.
DTMR, he says, is there a limit on the number of buyouts/retirements a team can have?
Anybody can retire.
I was about to say, I don't think you can stop anybody from retiring. Sorry, buddy. You got to stick around.
To retire. Buyouts, you only get 2. And there's one window that opens, I think, like a day or 2 after the Cup final and goes a couple of weeks. And then if you have enough players file for player-elected arbitration, then you get another window.
There you go.
This just in from Bob B. Hockey. He says, what has Romanov done to be considered a good D-man?
$6.5 million, I guess.
He was pretty good 2 years ago.
He was. He definitely was. And then the injuries were unfortunate, and we got a taste of him with D'Angelo, which in my eyes, didn't look very good. And I think the question is fair in the sense that, we still need to see him justify the contract and the length of it, long term, meaning be healthy and let's see what he can do.
It was an unfortunate injury this year. It wasn't. I don't think he's got a chronic injury problem necessarily, but he does need to be healthy. And I felt like him and Pollock were their best D pair 2 years ago for a lot of that season. I don't know if you can reunite that because unless they sign somebody to pair with Schaefer, you probably need Pollock up there with Schaefer.
Agreed.
But I think Romanov could be a good second pair guy, and certainly someone. I don't know if he's not going to help the power play, but he can at least be a left shot guy who could keep Schaefer off the penalty kill and keep him a little fresher for the power play.
And they need him to be that guy, because they are committed.
Yeah.
Magician Matt again. He says, I looked into the potential buyout for Palat. It's actually cheaper for 2 years combined than the cap hit for 1 year. Thoughts on a buyout for him?
We talked about it last
We
weekend.
did.
I don't know what's going to happen with Palat. I don't know if he's a guy who's ready to walk away from $6 million. I don't know what the bonus situation is this summer. Maybe he gets his money and then they agree to go their separate ways and he can try to sign somewhere else. We've seen that happen a couple of times. But yeah, they've got some buyout candidates and he is certainly one of them.
Yes.
DTMR, he says, will there be a pre-game show from Bridgeport next Saturday? If no sweep.
You mean our show?
That's what he's asking.
Oh, okay.
That's what he's. We can talk about it.
Can't do it on Saturday, but you're on your own there. I got a kid's birthday party that I'm hosting.
Hey, if you got to host a party, you got to host a party. Yeah, we weren't thinking about it, but maybe we'll think about it.
If they make the second round, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Another one from Chris from Long Island. He says, is Isaiah George your third LD if Pellick is traded?
Yes.
As of right now.
I mean, they could probably sign someone, but yeah, I think if you go Schaefer, Romanov, George, I don't mind that left side at all.
No, that kind of works.
You sign a a lefty veteran guy for $1 million to slot in there behind him. I like that.
Yeah, it kind of works.
Thomas Boyle, he says, do you see Shabanov returning?
I don't know.
I did find it interesting that the Boer was getting him in there, because Wah stopped playing him.
I like his game. It's funny to me to see a guy who brings a lot of offense. Again, size may be an issue, and obviously he got hurt a couple of times. But sticking him on the fourth line as he did a couple of times, like not getting anything out of that. Right. So I feel like if he's back, it'd be great. They don't really have a lot of scoring from the wings. That's where they need to shore things up, and that's what we're talking about, trades and things like that. So I'm interested to see, if we get through June and they haven't loosened up the lineup by dumping a few guys off the forward group, then yeah, I could see him being back because they could sure use him. Yeah,
I guess you almost hope that they make enough of those moves where maybe you don't need a Shabanov in the lineup, right?
Yeah. And they'd have to make a move with him too. He's not a UFA. They have his rights.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Jeremy Ford, he says, can Danny Nelson and Quinn Finley, maybe Xavier Value too, play in this Spangler Cup for U.S. Collegiate Selects?
I have no idea, Arthur.
I think they can. Didn't Danny Nelson play in it this year?
Yes. Yeah. That sounds right.
Thank you, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
No, Quinn Finley can't because he turned pro, so he's not eligible for the college select team. But Nelson is staying, and Vayu is just starting his college career this year. So, yeah, I think they could.
Next from PS, he says, with Schaefer exceeding expectations for an 18-year-old defenseman, do you think it changes Aitchison's expectations of contributing earlier?
No. You only get one Matthew Schaefer.
Yep.
And we got him.
Yeah, I would have to agree
okay
there.
With that.
However long it takes Aitchison, like if he can become the player he looks like, in juniors and whatnot, then let him take that time.
200 pro games is the number that scouts and people around the game always cite, and might be more for a defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
And we think back to Pulock and Pellick and Taves and Mayfield. They all played over 150, maybe not Pulock, but 100 to 150 AHL games, all of them. So.
Ed,
let's be patient.
One more, pal.
We'll ask another one from Thomas Boyle.
Okay.
He says, unless the Islanders win the lottery, will their 13th pick player be NHL ready?
I would say unlikely.
No. I mean, next year, no.
Yeah. I was expecting are they going to trade it question once you mentioned that, to be honest with you. But, I would say no to that question. Yeah. No.
One more?
Okay, that was quick.
Another one came in from Bobby Hockey. He says, how many players are the Isles away from being a serious contender? Several.
More than you'd like, I would think. It's certainly not one or two, right?
3. I'd say 3.
3?
Yeah.
I'd say that's several. Or a few.
It's a few. It literally is a few.
Right? A few.
So we're going to go with a few. Now, what are we thinking here? 2 wingers and a defenseman?
Well, look, it depends on who they trade, right?
Sure.
If you trade Matthew Barzal for 2 really good players,
really beating that drum, huh?
Then suddenly, I think it's more about the mix than it is about adding. That's all.
Okay, there you go.
There you have it.
So 3.
A few.
Yes. Right. It's the exact amount of licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Roll Center for Tootsie Pop.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so that will do it for Questions Brewing. Which means that will do it for Hockey Night in New York. So first and foremost, sending out a tremendous thanks to Mr. Lou Lamoriello for joining us on the program tonight. Absolutely amazing stuff there. And of course, a big thanks to Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein, attorneys at law. Nobody likes going to court, but if you have to, call 212-LAW-1500 for a free consultation. And if you haven't already, folks, rate, review, and subscribe. And Arthur Staple, where can we find you?
Stape NHL on Twitter, Art Stape on Blue Sky, Tri-State Hockey Report on Daily Faceoff, and watching playoff hockey with none of our local teams in it. Sadly.
Fair enough. Jake the Snake Radonis, how about yourself?
Jake Radonis on Twitter and also watching playoff hockey.
Excellent. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Shawnee Hockey. I'll be watching playoff hockey as well as much as I can. You can follow the show at Hockey Night NY on all social media platforms. You can go to the website at hockeynightny.com. And as we said before, we will be back next week at your regularly scheduled timing of 8 p.m. on Sunday night to wrap the season and look ahead towards the summer. And then perhaps barring any surprise news, we will probably be pulling down the shades on the season after that. But you never know. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Hockey Night in New York. I've been Sean Cuthbert. For Arthur Staple, for Jake the Snake Radonis, for Edzo, and Happy Jay, we've been Hockey Night in New York. We will see you next week.